No, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yesterday, everything's working? Let's check. Yesterday, Kamsa had grabbed the child out of Devaki's arms by the legs, and he dashed her against a rock. Now,
But immediately the child slipped out of his hands, went up in the sky, and appeared with 8 arms as the younger sister of Vishnu. She was decorated with a nice dress and flower garlands and ornaments. In her 8 hands she held a bow, lancet, arrows, bell, conch shell, disc, club and shield. Krsna Book Chapter 4. The child Yogamaya Devi, the younger sister of Lord Vishnu, slipped upward from Kamsa's hands and appeared in the sky as Devi, the goddess Durga, with 8 arms, completely equipped with weapons. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.9.
so in the Sanskrit, let's see, we'll go on to the purport because Prabhupada explained. Here, in both Krishna Book and Srimad Bhagavatam, Yogamaya is called the younger sister of Krishna. But how is that? Because Yogamaya was born from Yashoda and Krishna was born from Devaki. They weren't brother and sister by birth. So Srila Prabhupada says that this proves that actually Krishna was also born from Yashoda at that time. And when Vasudeva brought Vasudeva from Mathura, that Vasudeva merged into the Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam, the original form of Krishna, who is the eternal son of Yashoda. Yes.
Kamsa tried to dash the child downward against a piece of stone. But since she was Yogamaya, the younger sister of Lord Vishnu, she slipped upward and assumed the form of goddess Durga. The word Anuja, meaning the younger sister, is significant. When Vishnu or Krishna took birth from Devaki, he must have simultaneously taken birth from Yashoda also. Otherwise, how could Yogamaya have been Anuja, the Lord's younger sister? Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.9 purport.
So this word Anuja, we also have the name Ramanuja, that means the younger son of Rama. So Anu means smaller or lesser, and Ja stands for birth. So this is proof within the Srimad Bhagavatam that Yogamaya is actually the Lord's younger sister.
Seeing the appearance of the child, who was actually the goddess Durga, all the demigods from different planets like Siddhaloka, Charanaloka, Gandharvaloka, Apsaraloka, Kinnaraloka and Urugaloka presented her articles and began to offer their respective prayers. From above the goddess addressed Kamsa, "You rascal, how can you kill me? The child who will kill you is already born before me somewhere within this world. Don't be so cruel to your poor sister. After this appearance, the goddess Durga became known by various names in various parts of the world. Krsna Book Chapter 4.
So this is exactly as Krishna informed Yogamaya before she appeared, that you'll be worshipped all over the world for getting material benefits from your worshippers. So after she spoke to Kamsa, she said, "You rascal, how can you kill me?" Of course, no one can kill her. She's in charge of the material world. She's in charge of the three modes of material nature. And her name is Durga because she's in charge of the Durg. Durg means fort. So this material world is just like a fortress, or actually it's like a prison, and she's the warden of the prison. So she's the one who controls, by the modes of material nature, all the different living entities and the types of birth that they take. So even the living entities in the higher planets of Siddhaloka, Charanalok, Gandharvalok, Apsaralok, Kinnaralok, and Uragalok, we spoke about some of these lokas earlier, they all worshipped Durga Devi, the younger sister of Krishna, because they were also under her control here in the material world.
The goddess Durga was decorated with flower garlands, smeared with sandalwood pulp, and dressed with excellent garments and ornaments made of valuable jewels, holding in her hands a bow and trident, arrows, a shield, a sword, a conch shell, a disc and a club, and being praised by celestial beings like Apsaras, Kinnaras, Uragas, Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, who worshipped her with all kinds of presentations. She spoke as follows. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.10.11.
So this appearance of Durga is stretched out into about 4 or 5 slokas in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srila Prabhupada simplifies it in the summary of the Krishna book.
O Kamsa, you fool! What will be the use of killing me? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has been your enemy from the very beginning and who will certainly kill you, has already taken his birth somewhere else. Therefore, do not unnecessarily kill other children. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.12.
It's very significant that Yogamaya herself appeared in the form of Durga, an angry form of the Lord, of Daivi, because Kamsa, being an asura, usually the asuras worship Lord Shiva and his consort to get material benefits. So he was also a worshipper of Durga Devi. So when his deity appeared before him in an angry mood and called him a fool and directly told him, "Do not unnecessarily kill other children because your enemy has already been born elsewhere." So Kamsa, he was shaken with fear and wonder that his deity is speaking to him directly. And therefore his mind became again transformed. But as we've discussed several times, you can never trust the mind of a demon.
After this appearance, the goddess Durga became known by various names in various parts of the world. Krsna Book Chapter 4. After speaking to Kamsa in this way, the goddess Durga, Yogamaya, appeared in different places, such as Varanasi, and became celebrated by different names, such as Annapurna, Durga, Kali, and Bhadra. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.13.
So these different forms of Devi, she's worshipped in different places all around the world. And just as Krishna has many names for his activities, so Devi also has many names within the material world. Particularly, just as Krishna, that's Devi's elder brother, he comes to protect the devotees and annihilate the demons, so she also does that. in a very angry mood, she kills the asuras with all of the weapons that she's carrying. Particularly, she has the trishul, the trident, and when we hear about the 3 different types of miseries, adhyatmic, adhibautic, adhidaivik, so that's from her trishul that she inflicts upon the living entities here in the material world. And then she, in order to protect the devotees, she'll kill the demons very violently. And the demigods, they also take shelter of her because sometimes she has to kill demons that even the demigods can't conquer.
The goddess Durga is celebrated in Calcutta as Kali, in Bombay as Mumba Devi, in Varanasi as Annapurna, in Cuttack as Bhadrakali, and in Ahmedabad as Bhadra. Thus in different places she is known by different names. Her devotees are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas worshippers of Supreme Personality of Godhead himself are called Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas are destined to return home back to Godhead in the spiritual world, whereas the Shaktas are destined to live within this material world to enjoy different types of material happiness. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.13 purport.
So because she's the Lord's energy, she's also called Shakti, so her worshippers are called Shaktas. But she has another name, and that's Vaishnavi. Just as we call ourselves Vaishnavas, we aspire to be Vaishnavas, that's devotees of Lord Vishnu. So her name is actually Vaishnavi because she's a very great devotee of Vishnu. She loves Lord Krishna very much and tries to assist him and serve him in so many different ways. Her particular assignment is within this material world because she's another face of Radharani, Srila Prabhupada said, when he gave one of his disciples the name Mahamaya, and the devotees were laughing at the initiation ceremony. Prabhupada said, "Don't laugh. This is another face of Radharani." Because Radharani being the source, the Mula Prakriti of the Shakti Tattvas. So all of the Shaktis emanate originally from Srimati Radharani. And here in the material world, Durga Devi, or known by so many different names, she's also expanded from Srimati Radharani. Though she's in an angry mood, because here in the material world there's so many asuras, so she's very busy inflicting punishments upon these asuras, and when necessary, even killing them. And even her husband, Shiva, sometimes the demigods have to request him that she's so angry, she might destroy the whole universe. So you please try to pacify her somehow. So he would lie down, and accidentally she would step on him, and that's why her tongue is out, because she was ashamed that she stepped on her own husband. So she stuck out her tongue. And she has many pastimes here. But for her followers, the Shaktas, she's the benedictor of material opulences. Because she's in charge of the whole material world, she can give anything material that they request. So many times, you'll see that the devotees of Lord Shiva and Durga Devi, they might have some material opulences, but there's no way that they can get liberation from this material world by worshipping Durga Devi. She can only act within this material world, and she can recommend in the form of Yogamaya to Krishna that this person is qualified for liberation, but she personally cannot give liberation.
In the material world, the living entity must accept different types of bodies. Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani maya. Bhagavad-Gita 18.61. According to the living entity's desire, Yoga Maya or Maya, the goddess Durga gives him a particular type of body, which is mentioned as a yantra or machine. But the living entities who are promoted to the spiritual world do not return to the prison house of a material body. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjana. Bhagavad-Gita 4.9. The words Janma na eti indicate that these living entities remain in their original spiritual bodies to enjoy the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental abodes of Vaikuntha and Vrindavan. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.13 purport.
So when we enter into the material world by our desire, because we want to enjoy separately from Krishna, actually we want to become Krishna and become the enjoyer, then we're given a material body, and that material body is like a machine, yantra. And it moves around according to our different desires and according to what we deserve, according to our activities, whether they're punya or pap. So Durga Devi, she arranges that particular type of body, that machine, so that we can fulfill our different desires here in the material world. But just as we're doing here every day, we're trying to understand the pastimes of Sri Krishna, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yo Veti Tattvataha. If one understands my birth and my activities in truth, Evam Yo Veti Tattvataha, then Tyaktva Deham Punar Janma, upon giving up this body, this yantra or deham, Punar Janma, another birth, naiti, we don't have to take another birth. Mamiti, we go to Krishna. And he's telling Arjuna that. And what happens in the spiritual world, everyone also has bodies, but those are our original eternal forms with which we enjoy pastimes with Krishna. So if we really want happiness, we won't try to derive happiness under the stringent laws of material nature overseen by Durga Devi. We'll return to Krishna's eternal abode, either in Vaikuntha and Vrindavan, and enjoy blissful pastimes with him.
After hearing these words, Kamsa became very much overwhelmed with fear. Out of pity, he immediately released Vasudeva and Devaki from the bondage of their shackles and very politely began to address them. Krsna Book Chapter 4. After hearing the words of the goddess Durga, Kamsa was struck with wonder. Thus he approached his sister Devaki and brother-in-law Vasudeva, released them immediately from their shackles, and very humbly spoke as follows. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.14.
So now Kamsa, out of fear and wonder, has changed his behavior. Before, ruthlessly, without any consideration of relationship or reaction to what he was doing, he was prepared to kill that little baby. But then when that little baby showed her divine aspect, he became fearful. And immediately he became remorseful, and he released Vasudeva and Devaki from the prison. But this is just temporary, because he'll very quickly revert back. It'll be less than 24 hours that he reverts back to his demoniac mentality.
Kamsa was astonished because the goddess Durga had become the daughter of Devaki. Since Devaki was a human being, how could the goddess Durga become her daughter? This was one cause of his astonishment. Also, how was it that the 8th child of Devaki was a female? This also astonished him. Asuras are generally devotees of Mother Durga, Shakti, or of demigods, especially Lord Shiva. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.14 purport.
Now in psychology, there are different things called prototypes. And Shiva and Parvati, they're the prototype of the happily married couple in the material world. They live happily, the wife is so devoted to the husband, they have children, they have so many followers, they're able to give so many benedictions to their followers. And Lord Shiva especially, being Ashutosh, he's very easily pleased. And he's very merciful to those in the mode of ignorance. But who does he worship? He worships the Supreme Lord. So eventually his followers, if they become elevated by worshiping him, they begin to inquire, well, who is Lord Shiva meditating on all the time? And Daivi herself, being the sister of Krishna, she's a very great devotee of the Supreme Lord. So by worshipping Lord Shiva and Parvati or Daivi, gradually they can become elevated to the platform of understanding the Supreme Lord, because Shiva and Parvati are both great devotees of the Lord. So Kamsa, he was in total ignorance of what actually had happened. Durga Devi was not the daughter of Devaki, though he was made to believe that. So because he had great faith in Durga Devi, now he respected Devaki because he believed that Durga was the daughter of Devaki. And the other thing that he couldn't understand was that the eighth child was a girl. So these two things astonished him. And in this mentality of astonishment, he then addressed Vasudeva and Devaki.
The appearance of Durga in her original eight-armed feature, holding various weapons, immediately changed Kamsa's mind about Devaki's being an ordinary human. He thought that Devaki must have had some transcendental qualities. Otherwise, why would the goddess Durga have taken birth from her womb? Under the circumstances, Kamsa, struck with wonder, wanted to compensate for his atrocities against his sister Devaki. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.14 purport.
So Krishna knew, of course, exactly what he was doing by having Durga Devi chastise Kamsa, one of her devotees. Kamsa listened and his mind immediately changed. And he also developed temporarily some respect and astonishment for his own sister Devaki. So now we'll continue and hear what Kamsa says.
He said, "My dear sister and brother-in-law, I have acted just like a demon in killing my own nephews. I have given up all consideration of our intimate relationship." Krsna Book Chapter 4. Alas, my sister! Alas, my brother-in-law! I am indeed so sinful that exactly like a man-eater Rakshasa who eats his own child, I have killed so many sons born of you. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.15.
So the Rakshasas are also very powerful. They're considered more powerful than human beings. But they have a particular habit, and that is that they eat living entities. They eat humans, Rakshasas. So they even sometimes eat their own children. And there are other types of living entities who do the same thing. You'll see snakes, lizards, and there are many, many sinful living entities who are forced to take birth in their particular yantras or their machines because of their sinful activities. So Kamsa was comparing himself to such a Rakshasa because he had so mercifully killed these little innocent babies. And now he was feeling some remorse for the first time. Before that he only thought of himself, but because Durga Devi had chastised him, now he was sorry for what he had done because she told him to stop killing these babies uselessly.
Rakshasas are understood to be accustomed to eating their own sons, as snakes and many other animals sometimes do. At the present moment in Kali Yuga, Rakshasa fathers and mothers are killing their own children in the womb, and some are even eating the fetus with great relish. Thus, the so-called civilization is gradually advancing by producing Rakshasas. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.15.
So we don't want to discuss the atrocities that are going on in Kali Yuga too much, but there are places where they serve the fetus and the placenta of aborted babies as like in a restaurant, and they also systematically abort babies to extract from their bodies particular chemicals that give nice flavors to water and to foods. This is all the most demoniac, rakshasic technology of Kali Yuga. Now, as for snakes, snakes in a normal condition, the mother snake, she'll protect her eggs. But if she's feeling stress, or if she's sick, or if she's starving, she won't hesitate to eat her own eggs. And there are other types of sinful living entities, like for instance scorpions. Scorpions are such a sinful birth that when the male approaches the female for conception, she will sting the male to death during the time of conception. And then when the mother gives birth to her babies, she carries them on her back. And the babies then, when they get old enough, they sting her to death as well. So this is, there's so many different types of sinful living beings that take birth in this material world because of their sinful activities. And Kamsa now, although he was a demon, he was educated. And he knew now, because Durga had chastised him, that there was going to be some reaction for the sinful activities that he had performed. And now he's in a state of lamentation for what he had done.
I do not know what will be the result of these acts of mine. Probably I shall be sent to the hell where killers of Brahmanas go. Krsna Book Chapter 4. Being merciless and cruel, I have forsaken all my relatives and friends. Therefore, like a person who has killed a Brahmana, I do not know to which place I shall go, either after death or while breathing. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:4-16.
So before, without thinking of any reaction, he was just thinking of his own safety. He killed the children mercilessly. Now that Durga Devi had chastised him, in fear he was thinking, oh, definitely I'll have to go to hell for this. I'm going to have to suffer for this. Because he understood these powerful demons, they understand the transmigration of the soul and how they have to suffer. For instance, Narada Muni had already informed him that he had been Kalanimi in his previous birth and that Vishnu had killed him, and now Vishnu is going to appear to kill him again. So he was well aware of the transmigration of the soul and how if someone commits severely sinful activities, they're going to have to suffer not only in the next life, but even in this life. So he feared what that reaction was going to be.
I am surprised, however, that the celestial prophecy has not come true. False propaganda is not found only in the human society. Now it appears that even the celestial denizens speak lies. Because I believed in the words of the celestial denizens, I have committed so many sins by killing the children of my sister. Krsna Book Chapter 4. Alas, not only human beings but sometimes even providence lies. And I am so sinful that I believed the omen of providence and killed so many of my sister's children. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:4-17.
An intelligent person, because they control the mind with the intelligence, and with the mind they control their senses. So with their intelligence, they'll think before they act. And they'll decide not to commit sinful activities because they know that there's going to be a reaction. But a sinful person, a demon, they don't think like that at all. They only think in terms of how to protect themselves and what's going to give them pleasure. So when Kamsa heard the celestial voice in the sky, because why did that celestial voice say that? The demigods wanted to speed up the process of Krishna appearing. It was the demigods speaking. So Kamsa immediately, to protect himself, was prepared to even kill newborn babies just so that he would not die at the hands of that 8th child. So he was simply waiting like a watchdog when that baby was coming, because of course, remember, the demigods and the demons, they're always at odds with each other. So the demigods had actually intentionally tricked Kamsa so that he would commit more and more sinful activities to speed up Krishna's appearing to kill him.
My dear Vasudeva and Devaki, you are both very great souls. I have nothing to instruct you, but still I request that you not be sorry for the death of your children. Every one of us is under the control of superior power, and that superior power does not allow us to remain together. Krsna Book Chapter 4. O great souls, your children have suffered their own misfortune. Therefore, please do not lament for them. All living entities are under the control of the Supreme, and they cannot always live together. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:4-18.
So this happens several times in the Srimad Bhagavatam when the demons preach very high philosophy. This also happened at the time when Hiranyaksha was killed by Varahadev, and Diti and the wife of Hiranyaksha were lamenting bitterly. And Hiranyakashipu, he came and preached to them perfect philosophy from the Bhagavad-Gita. It'll be coming up in the next one.
Kamsa addressed his sister and brother-in-law as Mahabhagav, because although he killed their ordinary children, the goddess Durga took birth from them. Because Devaki bore Durga Devi in her womb, Kamsa praised both Devaki and her husband. Asuras are very devoted to the goddess Durga, Kali and so forth. Kamsa therefore, truly astonished, appreciated the exalted position of his sister and brother-in-law. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:4-18 purport. Durga is certainly not under the laws of nature, because she herself is the controller of the laws of nature. Ordinary living beings, however, are controlled by these laws. Prakrute kriyamanani gunahi karmani sarvashaha. Bhagavad-Gita 3.27. Consequently, none of us are allowed to live together for any long period. By speaking in this way, Kamsa tried to pacify his sister and brother-in-law. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:4-18 purport.
So Devaki and Vasudev, they were performing a drama for Kamsa because they knew that their child was safe in Gokul. They didn't, although they lamented grievously that their 6 children were killed, they intentionally had the children so that Lord Krishna would appear as their 8th child. Now, Kamsa, being a great devotee of Durga and Shiva, because the demons worship Durga and Shiva for material benefits, so he naturally worshipped them. Now suddenly he respected Devaki and Vasudeva because he believed, or they caused him to believe, that Durga Devi was their daughter. So this is all a big drama that's being performed here to further confuse Kamsa. And now, at least, he's, for a short time, he's lamenting his sinful activities, and but not directly, because he's blaming it all on a superior power, which even he is under the control of. So he's not taking full responsibility for his activities. He's saying, it wasn't me, it was the superior powers that caused your babies to die. So in that way, the demons, they try to avoid the reactions of their sinful activities by saying, actually, it was the nature, it was some superior power, I couldn't help it. So they never quite understand that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. They blame it on somebody else, on something else, on some uncontrolled force that they couldn't help, like that.
If Durga Devi is the controller of the three modes, then how does Krishna give liberation from the three modes? Durga Devi is Krishna's energy. Prabhupada gives the example of a prison warden and the king. The prison warden does not have the authority to release the prisoner. The king or the judge decides how long the prison term will be. Then the person is liberated. The warden keeps the person in jail, but he cannot liberate that person. That authority rests with the king. Similarly, Durga Devi controls the material world, but only Krishna can award liberation.
So by worshipping Durga Devi, we can get all types of benefits within the prison house. Just like by bribing the warden, you might be able to get a better food, a better cell, VIP cell, like that. But the warden can't free you from the prison because you have a particular sentence. And the same way, Durga Devi can't liberate you. She can recommend you that this person has been in good behavior, this person has become your devotee to Krishna, but only Krishna can award that liberation.
We are bound to be separated from our friends and relatives in due course of time. But we must know for certain that even after the disappearance of different material bodies, the soul remains intact eternally. For example, there are many pots made of earthly clay, and they are prepared and also broken. But in spite of this, the earth remains as it is perpetually. Similarly, the bodies of the soul under different conditions are made and destroyed, but the spirit soul remains eternally. So there is nothing to lament over. Krsna Book, chapter 4.
So this is Kamsa still speaking to Vasudeva and Devaki. He's speaking the basic impersonal philosophy that the Atma is within all of these different forms, which are compared to clay pots. So the impersonalists, they say that within the clay pot there's air, and then when the clay pot breaks and returns into earth, the air then can merge into the all-expansive air, as like Brahman. So this also was a pastime in Lord Chaitanya's childhood Leela, where he was playing with the dirty pots, and his mother had to explain to him that yes, that's true, but each pot has a particular type of function. So in a similar way, our bodies also have a particular type of function, and we have to find out what that function is for serving the Supreme Lord. So Kamsa, while he was preaching to his sister and brother-in-law that all these bodies, they'll merge into the earth anyway. So he's trying to allay their lamentation for the loss of all of their children, and now the fact that their last child, the 8th child, has flown up into the sky and dispersed herself all over the earth. So now they're completely childless, and he's trying to tell them that it's all right because this is just the superior authority of, he never mentions God in any way because he doesn't believe in that God is the supreme controller. But there's a superior power that does not allow us to remain with all of our relatives. That he's aware of.
In this world, we can see that pots, dolls, and other products of earth appear, break, and then disappear, mixing with the earth. Similarly, the bodies of all conditioned living entities are annihilated, but the living entities, like the earth itself, are unchanging and never annihilated. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Bhagavad-Gita 2.20. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.19.
So this is Kams, the great Asura, who did everything possible to protect his own body, now preaching that all of these bodies within them, although all living entities are annihilated, but like the earth itself are unchanging and never annihilated, So he's preaching Atma Tattva to them, but he himself couldn't follow it. It was just because Durga Devi chastised him that now he's remembering that all of this killing he had done was sinful, and because he committed so much violence to his sister and brother-in-law, he's begging their forgiveness by explaining to them that they shouldn't lament because all bodies are temporary, but the living entities are never annihilated.
Sri Hiranyakashipu Vacha. Hiranyakashipu said, "My dear mother, in a restaurant or place for drinking cold water, many travelers are brought together, and after drinking water they continue to their respective destinations. Similarly, living entities join together in a family, and later, as a result of their own actions, they are led apart to their destinations."
So this is the way Hiranyakashipu, it says right in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Hiranyakashipu Uvacha. So he was preaching to his mother and to his sister-in-law about how all the different members of a family, later as a result of their own actions, they're led apart to their different destinations. So he was trying to appease Devaki for having killed all of her little babies, that actually this is just the law of nature, that even if the babies had lived, you would also have been separated from them. So Hiranyakashipu, when he was preaching like this, it was, of course, for his own self, he did everything possible to protect his body. But there's achar and vichar. He was openly preaching a perfect philosophy to help others out of their lamentation, though he himself did not follow that philosophy.
Although Kamsa is described as a demon, he had good knowledge of the affairs of Atma Tattva, the truth of the self. 5,000 years ago, there were kings like Kamsa, who is described as an asura, but he was better than modern politicians and diplomats who have no knowledge about Atma Tattva. As stated in the Vedas, Asango hi ayam purusha, the spirit soul has no connection with the changes of material body. The body undergoes 6 changes: birth, growth, sustenance, byproduct, dwindling, and then annihilation. But the soul undergoes no such changes. Even after the annihilation of a particular bodily form, the original source of the bodily elements does not change. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.19 purport.
So the asuras, they had good knowledge of the affairs of Atma Tattva. In other words, they understood that there was a soul within the changing body. But they didn't understand about Paramatma. They didn't understand who the Supreme Lord is. And that's the difference between an asura and a sura. Krishna's name is Sori. These suras, his other name is Deva Deva. He's the Lord of the demigods. The suras, or the demigods, or the devotees, they understand that along with the Atma is the Paramatma, and therefore they take shelter of that Paramatma at every stage of life. But the asuras, they only understand as far as Atma Tattva. They haven't come to the platform of understanding Paramatma Tattva. So therefore, they have no knowledge of the spiritual world where they can actually be happy. So they try again and again with whatever body they're in to derive happiness. And that's why they want to protect their body as much as possible.
The living entity enjoys the material body which appears and disappears, but the 5 elements earth, water, fire, air and ether remain the same. The example given here is that pots and dolls are produced from the earth, and when broken or destroyed, they mingle with their original ingredients. In any case, the source of supply remains the same. As already discussed, the body is made according to the desires of the soul. The soul desires, and thus the body is formed. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.19 purport.
So the soul desires, and Paramatma, who's sitting in the heart of that soul, of that Atma, with that living entity, he knows the desires of that particular soul, and he informs Maya Devi which type of body to give that particular soul according to the three modes of material nature. And Prabhupada explains that originally there are three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then when you multiply them, you mix them up, because it's never pure, it's always mixed. So the 3 times 3 makes 9, 9 times 9 makes 81, 81, and it goes on and on and on until you have 8,400,000 different types of species of life according to the desires of that particular Atma who's sitting in the heart. So this is the combined work of the Supreme Lord in the heart, dictating to Maya Devi which type of body under the modes of nature to give that particular living entity. So the demons, they only understand as far as the soul that goes from one body to another, and how the body disintegrates and the soul passes on. But they don't understand how the Lord dictates to their worshipful deity Durga Devi which type of body they should get, because they're not in knowledge, they're being kept in ignorance of the Supreme Lord and his function, his supremacy over Durga Devi.
Krishna therefore says in Bhagavad-Gita 18.61, Ishvaraha paramaha Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati ramayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of a material energy. Neither the super soul Paramatma nor the individual soul changes its original spiritual identity. The Atma does not undergo birth, death, or changes like the body. Therefore, a Vedic aphorism says, Asango hi ayam purushaha. Although the soul is conditioned within this material world, he has no connections with the changes of the material body. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.19 purport.
So Kamsa understood this far, that the Atma changes according to his desire, he goes from one body to the next. But unfortunately, the Asuras, because of their heinous activities, because of their sinful actions, and because of their denial of the supremacy of the Lord, they're not given any information how to get liberated from this dark material world. And therefore they travel from one body to the next in ignorance. And Krishna explains in the 16th chapter that actually these demons, he pushes down into the lower species of life because of their sinful actions. So Kamsa now feared that, because he knew he had acted sinfully, and he was afraid that now he's going to get a very severe reaction because Durga Devi had chastised him. And therefore, he's begging forgiveness from the very people that he had so heinously violated by killing their children.
Everyone should understand that this material body is different from the spirit soul, and so long as one does not come to that understanding, he is sure to accept the processes of transmigration from one body to another. Krsna Book Chapter 4. One who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels affected by union with and separation from his family, society and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life. Otherwise, one is liberated. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.20.
So here we have Krishna in Dwarka with his many, many family members. With each of his 16,108 wives, he had 10 sons. And the sons loved him dearly, and Krishna loved them, and Krishna loved his wives. There was so much affection between Krishna and all of his family members. And when Rukmini's first son was kidnapped, when he was still in the maternity house, just a few days old, she lamented bitterly throughout until he appeared again as Pradumna to her. So these are very natural emotions within all living entities. But when they're centered around Krishna, then they become spiritual. And when they're centered around only our own sense gratification, then they're a cause of great lamentation. So therefore, Kamsa was preaching to Devaki that don't lament for your 6 sons, because everyone is separated from one another in family relationships and all types of relationships in this material world. It's just a fact of life. So you would have been separated from your sons anyway by the laws of nature. So he's, without understanding the eternal aspect of love and affection, he thinks that the only type of pleasure you can get is by bodily relationships. He doesn't understand about the eternal love that you can have with Krishna. And therefore, he's a demon. And therefore, now for a few minutes, his mind is clear, he understands about the soul, he's preaching very nicely to his sister. But as soon as he's reminded that you have to protect your body, that the demigods are your demons, you have to do everything possible to get the utmost happiness by protecting your body in this lifetime, then again, he'll imprison them and he'll start killing more and more children, because that's the demoniac mentality, because they have no eternal, they have no understanding of their eternal relationship with Krishna. Again and again and again, they'll try to enjoy with the material body that they have.
As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, Savai punsam paro dharmo yato bhaktiradhokshaje ahaitukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. The word dharma means engagement. One who is engaged in the service of the Lord, yato bhaktiradhokshaje, without impediment and without cessation, is understood to be situated in his original spiritual status. When one is promoted to this status, one is always happy in transcendental bliss. Otherwise, as long as one is in the bodily concept of life, one must suffer material conditions. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.20 purport.
So here we have the example. These are the beloved gopis in Braj, and they're also worshipping Durga Devi. It's mentioned that when Yogamaya flew up into the sky, she took the form of Katyayani. So there's a Katyayani Vrat that the young girls perform. It's the month after Kartik. For 1 month they worship Durga Devi in the form of Katyayani. Every morning they bathe in the Jamuna river, and then they make offerings to Katyayani, and they pray for a good husband. So the gopis, being fully dedicated to Krishna, they only wanted Krishna as their husband. And they had a beautiful mantra that they prayed to Katyayani with. Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayogi Nadishwari Nanda Gopa Sutha Devi Pati Me Kurute Namaha. That Mahayogini, Mahadevi, Katyayani, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj our husband. So because they were praying to Katyayani, the same Durga Devi, for Krishna, to get Krishna as their husband, therefore their dharma was bhakti. They were doing what they were supposed to do, praying for a good husband, but they were praying for Krishna. So in the same manner, everything we do, it can either be materialistic or it can be for Krishna. So the topmost dharma, the Sanatan dharma, is if we do everything, even if we worship Durga Devi, if it's done to get Krishna in a spirit of bhakti, then it becomes pure.
Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Bhagavad-Gita 13.9. The body is subject to its own principles of birth, death, old age and disease. But one who is situated in spiritual life, yato bhakti radhokshaje, has no birth, no death, no old age and no disease. One may argue that we may see a person who is spiritually engaged 24 hours a day, but is still suffering from disease. In fact, however, he is neither suffering nor diseased. Otherwise, he could not be engaged in 24 hours a day in spiritual activities. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.20 purport.
So one day, Srila Prabhupada was sitting here in his garden. It was 1976, 1 year before he disappeared. And he called Gita Devi Saraf to meet him. And it was just a private conversation, just the two of them. Prabhupada sent all of his servants away. Gita Devi told me this afterwards. So Prabhupada explained to her that Krishna sent me here. He sent me here to preach because I could preach in English, Bengali, and Hindi. And he sent me all over the world. And now I'll be going. He told Gita Devi this. Gita Devi is the lady who gave the land for our temple here. So he told Gita Devi that now he'll be going back. And Gita Devi was devastated. And years later, she was always asking me that I want to learn English. You teach me English. And she was an 80-year-old woman. I would tell her, Gita Devi, what is the use of your learning English? You're an old woman. Just learn about Krishna and prepare to go back to Godhead. And she was saying, no, no. And then she told me what Prabhupada told her, that he was sent here by Krishna and now he'll be going back. And then she said, I want to learn English because I want to preach all over the world like Prabhupada did. So a pure devotee, that's the only reason why they come here. Their bodies are not material. They simply come on the order of Krishna to help other people become Krishna conscious. And then when Krishna calls them back, then they give up this particular body that they're in and they return to the Nitya Leela of the Supreme Lord. So we saw that exactly with Srila Prabhupada and his activities.
An example may be given in this connection that sometimes dirty foam or garbage is seen floating on the water of Ganges. This is called Niradharma, a function of the water. But for one who goes to Ganges, do not mind the foam and dirty things floating in the water. With his hand he pushes away such nasty things, bathes in the Ganges and gains the beneficial results. Therefore, one who is situated in the spiritual status of life is unaffected by foam and garbage or any superficial dirty things. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.20 purport.
So the Ganga is pure even if we might see foam and garbage on the surface, which is the Niradharma. It's just on the surface. But the devotee understands that he'll still get the benefit by bathing in the Ganga, even if that superfluous, that superficial dirt is seen on the surface. So with the pure devotee, it might appear that there's some defect in his body or that there's some disease, but it has nothing to do with his actual spiritual situation, which is eternal servant of Krishna. So therefore, we never look at the physical body of the pure devotee. We simply hear from the pure devotee and try to serve that devotee.
This is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami. Iha yasya harerdasye karmana manasa gira nikhilasu api avasthasu jivan muktah sa uchyate. A person acting in the service of Krishna with his body, mind and words is a liberated person, even within the material world. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-187. Therefore, one is forbidden to regard the Guru as an ordinary human being. Gurushu naramatir naraki saha. The spiritual master or acharya is always situated in the spiritual status of life. Birth, death, old age and disease do not affect him, according to the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Therefore, after the disappearance of an acharya, his body is never burned to ashes, for it is a spiritual body. The spiritual body is always unaffected by material conditions. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.20 purport.
So when we attend Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi Arti every morning, or any service or chanting we may be doing in Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, we need to always remember that just directly beneath the beautiful murti that's been established there is Srila Prabhupada's spiritual body that was placed there in Samadhi. And this is the first, just after Prabhupada was placed there in Samadhi, they put this little asan and a picture of Prabhupada, and then it took about 10 years for them to finally complete the Samadhi construction. But we don't look at the building, and of course the murti now being installed, that's the manifestation of Srila Prabhupada for whom we can do worship to. But inside, deep inside, is Srila Prabhupada's body. And Srila Prabhupada's body is being preserved like that because his body was entirely spiritual. And anyone who is our Guru, who has given us the opportunity to go back to Godhead by accepting us as disciple, giving us the mantras by which we can see the Supreme Lord directly, we should never consider that person to be an ordinary human being. And such persons are placed into Samadhi when they leave their temporary body.
My dear sister Devaki, you are so gentle and kind. Please excuse me, don't be aggrieved by the death of your children, which I have caused. Actually, this was not done by me, because all these are predestined activities. One has to act according to the predestined plan, even unwillingly. Krsna Book Chapter 4. My dear sister Devaki, all good fortune unto you. Everyone suffers and enjoys the results of his own work under the control of providence. Therefore, although your sons have unfortunately been killed by me, please do not lament for them. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.21.
Yes, he's blaming everything on providence now. It wasn't him. It was a predestined plan that all of your children were murdered by him. So this is the way the demon gets around taking, acknowledging his own activities. That no, this was all predestined. It was the karma of your children. That was why they died. It wasn't me who killed them. It was destiny. That was why they died. So, but meanwhile, Vasudeva and Devaki, they know that Krishna is safe with Mother Yashoda, growing up. He'll be so much loved by Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. So they're very peaceful. And when Kamsa prayed that they forgive him, they immediately forgave him because they were